Clean, right? The voice was loud, sharp, cutting through the music like a razor. I froze mid-step, a tray of untouched champagne glasses in my hands. Dozens of heads turned toward me, all dressed in expensive tuxedos and glittering gowns under the golden chandelier. My brother, Aiden, smirked from the center of the ballroom, raising his glass. Everyone, meet my sister Harper. She's the one keeping our floor shiny tonight. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Laughter erupted. Tight, fake, forced. The kind that stings more than it entertains. I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening around the silver tray. The weight of humiliation pressed against my chest, but I didn't flinch. Not this time. I set the tray down on the nearest table, slowly straightened my posture, and reached into my coat pocket. A click, a smooth flip of leather. My badge caught the light. Actually, I said, my voice sharp, unwavering, I'm Detective Harper Blake. I'm here for something else tonight. Silence fell like a blade. The laughter died in their throats. I watched Aiden's glass tremble in his hand. He blinked. Once, twice. Someone gasped. You're lying, he said. This is some joke. I took a step forward, my boots clicking on the marble, steady and cold. Is it? Then why did Internal Affairs send me to investigate the Bennett Foundation's missing funds? You know, the $2.6 million no one seems to remember disappearing? Aiden's face drained of color. I told them I could blend in, I added, eyes locked on his. And you made that easy. My mother, arms draped in pearls, took a shaky step forward. Harper, you never said anything about being... Because you all made sure I was invisible. The failure, right? The one who couldn't finish law school because she was too busy cleaning up Dad's messes after he died. Whispers rippled through the crowd now. Party guests shifted uncomfortably, champagne forgotten. Some were already backing toward the doors. I scanned the room, eyes landing on the older man by the balcony. Senator James Carrington. He stood still, a napkin in hand, sweat forming at his temples. He was the real reason I was here. And he knew it. But tonight, I wasn't just exposing the money laundering operation my brother was neck-deep in. I was going to dismantle every single person who stepped on me to climb higher. One lie at a time. And the first one? That I was ever just the maid. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The senator's gaze locked with mine like he knew this moment would come. But the one who cracked first wasn't him. It was Aiden. He laughed. Loud. Desperate. Okay, he said, waving his hand like I was some joke that had overstayed its welcome. She's pulling some stunt. Harper, you made your point. Can we please go back to... I'm not finished, I said, cutting through his performance like a blade. I've been building this case for 14 months. Watching, recording, following paper trails your overpriced lawyers didn't even think to shred. You're crazy, he snapped, that cool older brother mask slipping. You're doing this now? In front of everyone? Yes, I said, stepping closer. Because you don't get to humiliate me anymore. Not after what you did to Mom's trust fund. Not after what you did to me. His lips parted. I kept going. You told them I dropped out. That I couldn't handle the pressure. But you left out the part where you stole my tuition money. You left out the part where you forged Mom's signature to drain her investment accounts and left her with nothing but fake stocks. You have no proof, he said quickly, his voice rising. Wrong, I said, and reached into my jacket again. This time, I pulled out a slim flash drive. You were sloppy. Your emails, the hidden bank transfers, the alias accounts. Arden Blake 79 wasn't very original. A burst of whispers exploded behind us. One woman clutched her pearls. A man holding a champagne glass slowly lowered it, trying to fade into the crowd. I tried to tell Mom, I said, voice trembling now, but not from fear. But she wouldn't hear it. Because you, Aiden, golden boy, clean suit, perfect smile, you were always her favorite. And I was just the girl who messed things up. He stepped forward, pointing a finger in my face. You came here to destroy this family. I stared at that finger for a beat, then slowly looked past it, to the senator. That depends, I said quietly, on how much more this family has left to destroy. Carrington shifted. The air around him thickened. I turned to him fully. "Senator," I said clearly, "you know who I am. You saw the badge. You know I've been working this case with the FBI." The crowd gasped. "I thought you'd do the smart thing and keep your distance. But when I saw your name on the donation receipts connected to Aiden's shell company, I realized something. This wasn't just bad judgment, it was collusion. You fed him government contracts he was never qualified for, and he funneled kickbacks through Bennett Foundation's fake outreach programs." The senator's lips thinned, but he didn't speak. "I have it all," I said. "Dates, signatures, offshore accounts. Tonight, all of it gets submitted. I already have 2 agents outside. They're just waiting on my call." Now, the silence wasn't just stunned, it was frightened. "You won't walk out of this room," the senator finally said, voice cold. Aiden's eyes went wide. "That wasn't a denial," I smirked. "Is that a threat, Senator?" "Because my body cam's been rolling since the moment I walked in." His jaw clenched. People started reaching for their phones now. Some recording, others dialing in hushed panic. "This isn't how we handle things in this circle," he muttered under his breath, barely audible. I took one final step forward. "That's the problem. You think you're in a circle no one can touch. But guess what? I used to be on the outside looking in, and I made it my mission to rip it open." A man in a gray suit turned toward the exit, only to be stopped by 2 plainclothes agents. Gasps followed. Panic spread like wildfire. A woman dropped her clutch. A younger man, probably another insider, looked like he was going to be sick. And Aiden? He just stared at me. Like he didn't recognize his little sister anymore. And maybe he didn't, because the girl who cleaned up after everyone's messes was gone. Now I made the messes, but only for people who deserved them. The ballroom doors creaked open again, and this time they walked in. 2 federal agents, no nonsense. Suits, earpieces, sharp eyes. One held a folder, the other nodded at me. "Detective Blake," the lead one said, loud and clear. "Ready when you are." I exhaled, slow and calm. I nodded toward the senator. "Start with him." "Wait, what?" he barked, backing up. "No one leaves," the agent said, raising his hand to block the senator. "We're collecting statements tonight." And just like that, the party turned into a crime scene. People scattered. Photographers dropped cameras. Guests moved like ants under a magnifying glass, searching for exits that didn't exist. And me? I walked toward my brother one last time. "You humiliated me," I said, mocked me, sabotaged me, and when I needed help, you told me to clean up my own mess. He said nothing, just stood there, his whole life crumbling around him in real time. "I did," I said quietly, "and now I'm cleaning up yours." And with that, I turned and walked away. This time, with my head high. This time, everyone watched me. And not because I was the maid, but because I'd just turned their entire world upside down. I didn't look back. The ballroom behind me descended into chaos. Heels clacked in panic. Whispers turned to shouted arguments, and security tried to keep the press at bay. But I kept walking through the gold-plated hallways like I owned the place. Because tonight, I did. "Harper," one of the agents called, falling into step beside me. "FBI has already started seizing assets. Offshore transfers are frozen. We just needed someone on the inside." I nodded. That's why I stayed quiet so long. Every step they took deeper into this mess made their fall louder. He gave me a look. "You sure you're okay?" I glanced down at my badge, still clipped to my belt. Still real. Still mine. "I'm more than okay," I said. "I've been waiting for this moment since the day my mother said, 'Maybe you should leave the law to your brother.'" And that day played back in my mind like an old VHS tape I never threw out. It was the night after our father died. I was 19. My scholarship had just fallen through, and I found out Aiden had borrowed from our joint savings to throw himself a celebration dinner at a 5-star hotel. I confronted him. He laughed. My mom sided with him. "You were never meant for pressure, Harper," she said, sipping wine like she didn't just throw away her daughter's future. "Not everyone's a star." Number. Not everyone is. Some of us are storms. The next morning, the fallout began. Headlines exploded across news outlets like wildfire. Senator Carrington under federal investigation and kickback scheme. The Blake Foundation linked to multi-million-dollar fraud. Party turns into FBI raid. Guests interrogated on scene. I stood by the window of my apartment, sipping bitter black coffee, watching the sunrise cut across the skyline like a blade through darkness. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You embarrassed this family. I didn't need to ask who it was. My mother never saved her number in my phone. She didn't need to. Her tone was always enough. I replied, "You mean the family that threw me away?" She responded instantly. "You think this makes you powerful? It makes you pathetic. Destroying your brother's life just because you couldn't compete." I stared at the message for a long moment, and then deleted it. By noon, Aiden had been arrested. The footage went viral, him being led out of his luxury penthouse in cuffs, face hollow, eyes wide. He didn't even look at the cameras, just kept asking, "Where's Harper? Where's my sister?" I watched the video on loop, expression unreadable. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was him. Detective Kyle Hensley, my former training officer, now my lead in the precinct. "You pulled off the entire thing alone?" I replied with a smirk. "Not alone. I had your annoying voice in my head every step of the way." He called me 5 seconds later. "I saw the press conference," he said without greeting. "You destroyed them, Blake." "They destroyed themselves," I said calmly. "I just pulled the curtain back." He was quiet for a moment. "Does it feel like justice?" he finally asked. I stared at the blank TV screen in front of me, my reflection fractured across the black glass. "No," I admitted, "but it feels like truth. And that's more than I ever got from them." Later that night, I got another message, this time from someone I never expected. Bennett, Rachel, my cousin. I didn't know Harper. About what Aiden did, I believed everything he said. "I'm sorry." I sat with the message, read it 5 times, thought about how she once whispered behind my back that I'd probably end up doing hotel laundry for a living. But at least she messaged. I responded, "Thanks. I didn't expect you to say anything. If there's anything I can do, anything, just ask." I paused. "Just tell the truth. When the trial starts, that's enough." She replied within seconds. "I will." The next morning, I walked into the precinct, not as a janitor, not as a temp, but as Detective Harper Blake, badge clipped, case jacket in hand, and eyes locked forward. Kyle met me at the elevator. "You know what's coming, right?" he asked. "Retaliation?" He nodded. "The Carringtons, the Bennetts, the donors. People like that don't go down quietly." "Let them try," I said. "You're not afraid?" I smirked. I was afraid, for years, of not being good enough, of always being the family disappointment, of failing. I stepped out of the elevator. But the funny thing about hitting rock bottom is, you learn to build a fortress there, brick by brick. He watched me walk into the main bullpen where the other detectives stood, reading the headlines, whispering to each other. I took my seat, opened my folder, and started the next case. Because while the world was still shocked by the detective who ruined her own brother, I had already moved on. There were more shadows to expose, more power to challenge, more truths to tear out from behind expensive suits and champagne smiles, and I wouldn't stop until every last one of them was dragged into the light. They thought I'd disappear after the courtroom fireworks. They thought Harper Blake would take her final bow, and the headlines would fade. But justice doesn't die when the cameras stop flashing. It sharpens. The courthouse steps were packed that morning. Cameras, journalists, suits with microphones. I didn't stop for them. I kept walking with the folder in my hand. Inside was the final affidavit, the one that would flip the entire Bennett-Carrington ring on its head. Behind me, echoes of gasps, questions, and flashes. In front of me, power. And I wasn't scared of it anymore. Aiden was already inside the courtroom, his expression vacant, his suit no longer crisp. He didn't wear the smug grin anymore. That died the day the agents walked into his penthouse and froze his accounts. He glanced at me once when I entered, then quickly looked away. Good. Senator Carrington sat beside his lawyer, whispering urgently. He looked older now, smaller, as if all that political confidence had been built on a foundation of lies, and I'd finally cracked the concrete. The judge took the bench. "Ms. Blake, you submitted a final affidavit this morning?" "Yes, Your Honor," he nodded. "Proceed." I walked forward and handed over the document. "Your Honor, this is a sworn statement from Rachel Bennett, a first-hand witness to multiple fraudulent transactions. She details how the Bennett Foundation operated as a front for laundering federal funds and how pressure was applied to family members to lie or stay silent. The courtroom broke into murmurs. Carrington's lawyer jumped up. "This is hearsay." "No, it's not," I said flatly. "It's notarized, cross-referenced with existing financials, and verified against digital evidence recovered by federal agents. The statement includes names, dates, and access logs." The judge flipped through it, expression tight. Then he looked up and turned toward the senator. "Senator Carrington, you are now under direct scrutiny for obstruction, conspiracy to defraud the government, and political misconduct. You are to remain in the state pending trial." Carrington stood. "This is outrageous. She's fabricating this entire circus." I took a step forward. "Then explain the 11 wire transfers from Aiden Blake's business account to the senator's private foundation. Same timestamps, same offshore routing numbers. Would you like me to list the banks?" The judge slammed the gavel once. "Enough. This court has seen sufficient cause to proceed with the criminal investigation." Aiden closed his eyes. His entire world just collapsed. In real time. And my mother? She wasn't even in the courtroom. She hadn't shown her face once since I dropped the badge in front of her golden son. But the message she'd sent was still burned into my mind. "You humiliated your brother in front of everyone. Was that worth it to you?" Yes. Yes, it was. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every quiet girl who got laughed out of the room. Every woman they told to stay in her lane. Every truth swept under a rug that someone like me was always expected to clean. After the hearing, Kyle caught up to me on the courthouse steps. "You're not slowing down, are you?" he asked, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup. "No," I said, eyes locked on the press vans and black SUVs parked across the street. "This is just the beginning." "You made a lot of enemies in that room," I smirked. "Then they'll know how I felt growing up." He leaned against the railing. "So what now?" "I finished what I started," I said. "I don't just want justice for myself. I want to dismantle the entire culture that let people like Aiden thrive. The fake charities, the rigged contracts, the silence, all of it." He studied me for a second. "You ever think about what this cost you?" I nodded. "Every day. And I'd do it again." Because the truth is, I didn't just lose my family. I exposed what they were. People like Aiden and Carrington used family like armor, something to hide behind when it was convenient. But when it cracked, they turned on each other faster than the truth could reach the surface. And now, they were drowning in it. A week later, the trials began. I sat in the back of the courtroom that time, not because I wasn't involved, but because my presence made them sweat more from the shadows. They avoided my eyes. Good. The prosecutors laid out the evidence in layers: emails, account transfers, digital trails that led straight to private jets, luxury properties, and fake nonprofit initiatives. And each time the screen displayed a signature, my name glowed just below it. Detective Harper Blake, primary investigator. I didn't flinch once. By the end of the second day, Carrington's legal team requested a private deal. He offered names, connections, even details on judges who were paid to delay cases. The corruption web ran so deep, the feds launched a separate task force. And I was recruited to lead it. It didn't come with glory. There was no grand parade, no warm reunion with my mother, no apology from Aiden. But I didn't need one, because the girl who once wiped wine stains off a marble floor had walked into a ballroom with a badge and turned a legacy into ash. I made them see me. I made them remember me, not with kindness, with consequence. Late one night, I stood at the old family home. The estate had been seized, its lights off, garden overgrown, gate rusting from years of pretending it held something noble. I looked at the brass plate on the gate that still read, "The Blake Residence," and I said under my breath, "Not anymore." Then I turned away. No badge, no headlines, just me. But this time, that was enough. Because I wasn't the maid. I wasn't the outsider. I wasn't the family shame.